It's very seldom that a product comes along and genuinely ruins my life, but this is one of those moments. Good afternoon, welcome to Turbo Tortoise Tech. If you're new here, I'm Reese of the 4-piece warranty or Triple XL. And we have the PX3-Pro, which is just somewhat kind of disgusting. The depth of color over here, the color gamut that this covers, makes DCI-P3 look like a joke, which was already a really good scale. On BT 2020, it's at 110%, and with a delta variance of 0.9. I'm used to testing monitors that look really good that have a delta variance of less than 2. This has a delta variance of 0.9. And what that means is the color accuracy, the difference between areas of color, is just basically perfect. This is a laser tricolor projection system, so it doesn't actually use like a traditional backlight. It's got a flippin' laser inside of it. It's got sharks with friggin' laser beams on its head. Right. Dr. Evil jokes aside, it is quite a unit. And if you compare it to something like an 85-inch OLED in price and size, this comes out on top. This can do an 80-inch to 150-inch worth of display area. And I've just tested it on a wall that's painted slightly gray. It's not even pure white. It's not even completely flat. And it was still one of the best viewing experiences I've ever had. This thing will truly change your life and your consideration of what you can do in a home cinema, especially at the price point. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, as per usual, let's go through what's in the box. So you've obviously got the Wooks projector, you get a little infinity 2-prong plug, and then you get this remote control, which has backlighting on it, which is a big plus. It's got all of the relevant shortcuts like YouTube, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Netflix, etc, etc. You can customize some of them as well, so you can customize onto the heart-shaped button for your favorite over there. You can, as an example, if you were using like a different TV service like DSTV Now, that comes pre-installed, by the way, you can just hit a button and it'll take you to that, which is really nice. Then right at the bottom, it's got a solar panel, because it can be solar charged as well. And then right at the bottom over here, it's got a Type-C. So yeah, you shouldn't be running out of power from your remote anytime soon. Still traditional infrared to connect to it, so try not to block anything in the front of the device. The device itself, it does have active cooling. It's what we're going to actually go through first. If we look on the left-hand side, we've got the power button, and then just below that, a USB. So you've got a quick USB stick plug-in over there. But then those vents that you're seeing, they followed up on left and right, and then it actually flows through like that. You can actually open faces of fans on the side, and then the closed back of the ones on the other side. Does mean that it creates a little bit of a hum, but I don't think that's going to be an issue, especially if you use the pre-built speakers, because this has audio by Harmon Kardon. Out of the front over here, there are 250-watt stereo speakers for your viewing pleasure. Then on the bottom right is all of those certifications. It's got the IMAX certification. It's also got Vida TV, obviously, Dolby Vision with Dolby Atmos, which is a big one because it actually works really well in this. HDR, fully compatible, HDR10 Plus. It's got all of the certifications. I'll put them on the screen here for you so you can see exactly what it's got. But yeah, you're not going to want for interfacing with pretty much any device. Then along the back, having a look at the port setup, on the left-hand side is where everything is. There is an RJ45, so you can do a LAN connection over there. There is as well an optical, and then 3 HDMI ports. 2 of them are marked as high speed. The one on the far right is marked as ARC or eARC, and some of you will know that that then means you can interface this with a soundbar, which you might want to do. I don't strictly think you'll need to unless you want big boomy bass. The built-in Harmon Kardon sound is exceptional, except for big boomy bass. Then there's a USB 2 over there, a headphone jack as well. So if you've got a 3.5mm that you're going to go to like a component system into an RCA as an example, and it doesn't have an optical, then you can still interface with it like that. The obvious infinity plug that I spoke about earlier, which is for your power. And then there is a little service port over there, which I don't think you'll be worrying about too much as a normal user. If we look around the bottom, there's a couple of nice little bits over here. You'll see that there's a big vase amount. I'm not sure about the exact size of that off of hand, but it's a 4x4 vase amount that does come with bolts that are threaded for that size as well in the package. So you'll be able to mount this on the ceiling if you want to do top-down sort of projection. It is of the ultra short throw, the UST sort of model. So that's going to be I would say the best setup is either going to be to have it on your ceiling or right in front of the wall at the bottom. And then to help with that, on the bottom, and all four corners are adjustable feet, so you can shimmy it and make sure that you get it spirit level to make sure obviously that you get the best of your projection service. Now this does have an auto finding or auto calibrating setting for it, so that you can auto focus it onto your specific frame, and it will be able to do that automatically if you have a frame. If you don't, and like me, you were just projecting it onto like a wall, or your frame's very, very big and it's going to be, you know, smaller than that, you can do everything manually that you need to do on this from regards of focus. And setting up is not too difficult, especially if you've just got a tape measure. It's got all of the distances on the web page for it, but at 20 centimeters, you're basically getting 100 inches worth of screen, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, playing games or watching videos in the day, especially when you have a direct light source like I do, you can see in those images where it's coming in from the left, it is going to drop the kind of brightness and the effect of its contrast significantly. So I would say that you're going to want to make sure that wherever you are projecting, that there's almost no direct or even indirect light. You want to try and cull that as much as humanly possible, because when you do, then the 2800 lumens worth of goodness really does pop off. When you are watching like 4K HDR content, as an example, off of Netflix, as we did, and Lord of the Rings on the LD Plex, which also comes pre-installed. The Vita suite, I gotta say, as a side note on the software, has a really good set of supporting functions. But when you're watching that kind of content, it is better if the room is slightly darker. Overhead unnatural light is much less of a problem, especially if it's between you and the screen. Like if you have an overhead light in your lounge, you can actually leave that on and it doesn't ruin the effect. It's only natural light in abundance that really diminishes this thing's performance. But even in the middle of the day, it's still pretty good. You're going to want to use a different function from day and night, but it's like 2 button clicks and you're in that setting and you've made the change and you're back to watching. For gaming and stuff as well, it's pretty flippin' impressive, because these HDMIs can do 1080 240 or 4K 60 FPS. So you can go up to 240 Hertz on this sucker. And then because it's laser, there's absolutely no input delay. There's no like in an IPS or TN or VA, there's nothing that needs to get out of the way to let the light through. Now you might be thinking, but it's a projector, it's not going to have the longest lifetime. The expected lifetime for this sucker is 25,000 hours. At 6 hours a day, that's 11 years worth of projection. And you can't get a 150-inch screen anything close to that. I think the sweet spot is about 120. I used it between 100 and 120 most of the time that I was using it, just because that was the extent of my wall. I did try to take it a little bit further back to get it to its full size, but yeah, it obviously the more you increase the size, the less pixel density you're going to get. The AI upscaler really does help with 1080p content. It sometimes mugs up the colors a little bit. It doesn't always, like something will be greenish and it'll go bluish for a second and then come back if you have the upscaler on for 1080p content. But even on 1080p, everything feels so fluid for watching like sport and video and stuff in general. Everything on this is so fluid, it's unreal, because there's basically no pixel response time. It's direct light, so it's as instant as our brains could possibly ever perceive it, is a really big plus with this. Like I said, the colors, because of that BT 2020 at 110%, are kind of out of this world. This thing does slap. When Hisense, proposed the review to me and they said that they were excited about this thing in particular, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a projector. It'll be okay. I'm like, are you sure I can use this in the day? And they were sure, and they weren't joking. And the fact that it's got balance for night and day is really, really nice. Big plus that it's kind of built in. I did find that being able to tune it though, getting brightness, contrast, and saturation at the click of a button was really, really nice. So that if the content's a little bit older and more washed out, you can just saturate it yourself. That's flipping awesome that I can just do that on the fly. That's the kind of control I want. The built-in software, absolutely fantastic. The built-in PC that runs this is extremely fast. Being able to switch between different apps is like instant. The gaming experience on this, on that kind of size, was flipping awesome. My mom was watching me spin around in the Golf, and she was like, I can't watch this anymore because it felt too real to her. And obviously, as an uneducated eye, it might. But yeah, that's just with a normal 1S. If you put a 1X into this with like almost double the, well, basically double the power, it's going to be a very, very good time, I can imagine, with that. There's also quite nice safety features for little people around, because it's got an auto sensor. As soon as you approach it, then it kicks in with the auto sensor and says, no, you're going to obviously wreck your eyes if you look into a laser at that many lumens. Yeah, just the lasers with not a lot of lumens wreck eyes. So just I'd say be careful with that, but it's kind of got you covered. Basically, they've thought of everything and they've made it into like a really, really big old VCR shape, which I'm kind of behind as well. It's very flipping cool. If I was in the market for a really big TV and I had a room that I could, you know, just close curtains on, and basically I've then got like the best home theater experience. It's like putting a mini IMAX in your house. The built-in speakers, like I said, don't expect huge bass from them. The audio for people speaking, however, is mic'd up slightly. So voices are clearer where there'd be like a lot of action and stuff. It tends to get a bit muggy though when there's a broad spectrum of audio going through it. But for general viewing experience, it's pretty good. It's on par with most like average soundbars. So yeah, that's kind of nice. Then you've got the optical out. If you had a more serious home theater setup, the experience that you derive from this, it can't even be equaled by like an 85-inch OLED. It really can't, because of the size, and especially at night, you know, I've had a really good time. This thing has thoroughly ruined my life. Now, there's two different models as well, so just be careful with that. The normal PX3 doesn't have 3D support. The PX3-Pro, which is the one we're testing over here, does have 3D support. So if you're going to be doing 3D movies as well, then you might want to just make a consideration between the two. You are going to look at 55,000 Rand as a daily price. When they go on special, they are still about 50K. So we can't say it's cheap, but you're basically paying 2 Rand per hour worth of having a home cinema. Consider a movie price ticket, and that there's not going to be people spilling their drinks or popcorn in your lap, which I think is a big plus. Anywho, that is all I have for you on the Hisense PX3-Pro. If you have enjoyed this review, please do hit us up with a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side.